We are witnessing the collapse of community, the collapse of everything our grandfathers and great-grandfathers fought for. The founding values of America have been thrown out the window. Our heroes have been forgotten, and Western civilization is under attack from inside and out. Obviously, the world is pretty messed up right now, and my generation, Gen Z, is maturing just in time for perhaps the most turbulent era in human history. Now, I don't mean to be an alarmist here, but in my lifetime, we're probably going to see hyperinflation and or economic disaster. World War III and civil wars seem to be brewing right now. America is more divided than ever before. And soon, if these wars don't happen, we're just going to be enslaved to our phones and AI and pleasures and a thinly veiled totalitarian regime. I really don't mean to be such a downer, but we got to address things for what they are before we get to the solutions. Now, I realize that America has enjoyed 80 years of unprecedented peace and prosperity, and many people out there are still coasting along, enjoying their lives, going to college, getting married. That's great. Unfortunately, I feel like this historically exceptional time is going to end, one way or another. And for anyone who can read the signs of the times, this video is for you. This is a call for leaders and a cry for help from those in positions to give it. Gen X, boomers, silent generation, us younglings, we're in for a desperate time, and we need to create allyship between the generations. Ultimately, this brief manifesto is about retribalization and decentralization, returning to the original idea of the United States. Now, I know I can be grandiose, but I don't expect this video to change the world. I just want to plant a seed. So welcome back to Wisdom Warriors. I'm Christian. Let's dive into it. So I was talking to my dad the other day about the problems that young people face, and especially young men. And he was surprised by a lot of these revelations. And no, this is not a scapegoat victim video about how hard our generation has it. This is just the facts. Community has been devastated. Our familiar world of people and acquaintances we know has grown pathetically small. People maybe have one or two close friends, a girlfriend if they're lucky, and marriage isn't even a prospect on the horizon. I'm very social and community oriented, and I struggle creating proximity with more than a handful of people my age at a time. There's no church, no concentrated community events, no sense of real social or civic engagement anymore, and most of my generation works so hard and then they're just content to swipe on their phones, watch Netflix, and go on Tinder if they need any socializing. It's getting harder and harder to meet people, to build a familiar world like in college where you know many, many people. And because of this is destroying friendships, it's destroying community, and it's also destroying dating. And this was the other thing I told my dad. He was curious, like, why am I not in a long-term relationship? Why are most men that we know not getting married or not in relationships anymore? And I told him that dating has drastically changed in this global marketplace now. With things like Instagram, Tinder, dating apps, and also the lack of community, we don't have a familiar world where we're getting to know many people of the opposite sex. And because of that, we're just selecting based off superficial indicators, where a couple people get a lot of options and most people are left behind. Relationships are failing, families are failing, communities are failing, and the world's growing very, very atomized. This is nothing new, but I just had to hit on it here. Worsening the situation still, and this is the real kicker, is most of my generation will never be able to buy a home. Me and my dad were visiting our family friends on the outskirts of Denver, and their very average family home just got appraised at $1.2 million. I told my dad this, and he couldn't even fathom how anyone my age was going to be able to buy a home and have the normal American dream. I mean, it was a huge part of his vision to have a nice home and raise a beautiful family, and that's not even in our cards anymore. And even if it was, I still wouldn't want it, and most of my generation doesn't. You see, we've seen how exhausting it is to work day in and day out in this inflation economy, trying to raise kids while having a decent life, stressed to the max. I salute all the parents and grandparents out there who have sacrificed tremendously for their family. But we all have to understand that a two-parent household where both parents are off to work, trying to raise kids and have a life is not natural. That is an inverted system that I will not subject myself to. And I told my dad that, I won't raise kids alone, nor will I resign myself to a solitary life. There needs to be change. I need a real tribe, a community that has a shared mission together, that maybe gathers resources together, and most importantly, raises kids how it's supposed to be done together. I mean, logically, this is the only way forward. Most of my generation lacks all community. They're isolated with few hopes. They can't buy a house, nor do they want to take the path their parents took. The most audacious of us aren't just dreaming. We are laying plans on how to buy an affordable compound and build community together and build some sense of shared mission and shared social bond again. And no, this is not just another eco-village, hippie church commune. No, I laugh at this because my dad knows me and he came and visited me once on a piece of land like that. And we both recognize that is not the way. So right now, just outside of Denver, I see these new developments of multi-million-dollar homes, boxed in one right next to the other, and I cringe at the folly of this. Who the hell wants to be surrounded by strangers they barely know, all working disparate jobs while you stare into your neighbor's bathroom while he's getting ready? That is such a past world, an old American dream, and it's no longer valid for my generation whatsoever. With the kind of money those people are spending on vacation homes and gated communities, me and most of my friends would start building compounds. Interconnected communities where it's more of a village style of life, although you have your own autonomy inside of that. So I told my dad, the future is not these overly expensive single-family homes. That is the old world. I told him the future is compounds. There's a great quote from Heraclitus, one of my favorite ancient Greek philosophers, and it goes, "Change is a result of strife and necessity." And right now, this strife and necessity are coming to this crescendo point. We are approaching a dystopic, meaningless, and atomized world very quickly. And in many cases, we're already there. Everything that once gave us meaning is vanishing, while politics, social media, and propaganda are brainwashing the majority and alienating the rest. And you're right, the majority of my generation and other generations are caught up drinking the Kool-Aid, blinded by these partisan debates, but there is a strong undercurrent of people awakening. Many of us wholly reject modernity. And this youth rebellion is global and full of potential. It just needs direction. There are so many young people right now that are awake to the situation and want change, but they don't know where to place their energy. So I'm here to rally the young leaders and ask the older generations for their support in terms of insight and resources so that we can actually create the power to affect change. All of my close friends and half of the strangers I meet all have the same vision. And that is no coincidence. On top of that, some of the best minds in the world, people far smarter than me, are working on decentralization and retribalization projects. How do you create ideologically aligned and self-sovereign communities? This should be the frontier and the question we are all asking, because it's what the world most needs right now. And this is nothing new. In many ways, this was the original vision of the United States. Part 2. America, the land of the free because of the brave. It's time to stop play acting at freedom and start being brave again. The founding fathers of America were wise and visionary leaders. These were grassroots rebels who somehow mobilized colonies of disparate people to win the most unlikely revolution possible. Afterwards, these lofty men proceeded to argue over history and political theory as they drafted one of the most uncertain governmental plans, the Constitution. We know now that their experiment of a democratic republic was a tremendous success. We have prospered so much and learned a lot over the past 250 years. But obviously, this old document needs an update. And not in the progressive, radical socialist sense, nor by making America great again. To all you Trumpsters, hey, I respect you guys. But returning to an older version of America is not going to solve these problems that we face, only postpone them. We don't need to return to the America of the 1950s or 1980s. We need to return to the America of the 1780s. And no, I'm not talking about slavery or southern plantations. I'm talking about towns. America in the 1780s was very decentralized. These 13 colonies had just thrown off the shackles of imperial rule and were very distrusting of centralized power. Hence, they only created a very weak centralized state through the Articles of Confederation. Most of the power rested at the state level and then even at the local level. Each citizen of a town basically participated in self-governance, in total autonomy. The town probably shared Enlightenment values with the other towns, but they ultimately made their own laws, followed their own religion and their own traditions. Self-sovereign, independent communities makes people a lot happier because they feel like they actually have a say in their lives and they feel much more connected to other members in their community. They have community, they have group coherence, and this is so important and what we need to return to. The original idea of the United States was that each state, each local governing body had its own culture, its own creed, its own ideology, and therefore was unique. But it was connected to the other communities and the other locales and towns and states. And as a result, it created this one body. But right now in the United States, we don't have diversity of cultures and communities. We only have diversity of peoples. And this is a really interesting idea. When we lose shared social bonds and shared identity with our community, with our group, all of a sudden we become this atomized cell. We lose our footing in the world. And then all of this diversity and multiculturalism and this mixing of ideas and peoples just floods us. And this actually creates the negation of all culture. Culture comes from concentration, a concentration of people and ideas towards a vision, not this complete mixing of everything. This is the dispersion of all values. And this is what we're living in, is each person has become an atomized cell that is living as basically the chattel, not even a citizen, but as the sheep of the great American empire, the great American one state. And this is exactly what our founding fathers feared the most. Let that sink in for a moment. We are living out the dream our founding fathers feared the most. If we don't have a revolution of some kind at this point, they would be disappointed. So I think it's time that we seek to understand the original idea of the United States and learn from wise founders and successful communities in the past. And then with an eye to modern technologies and all the things we've learned, seek to create our own civilizational projects. Like, we can do this today. No one's stopping us. Here's the thing, most of you watching this want change, but America, the world, is not going to change from the inside of these over-bloated bureaucratic institutions and corrupt politicians. The world's going to change how it's always changed, through revolutionary leaders going a different direction. We just need to show a new way, a way that really works. And yeah, the compound village model has a lot of problems that leaders are going to need to solve. But we need to get working on this. Because here's the thing, is humans are social animals of faith. Meaning we need to feel like we're a citizen of a larger group, and a citizen of a larger being or a larger plan beyond this speck that we inhabit, or else we're just going to fall into nihilism and hedonism and just the brokenness that we see in the modern world. So here's the seed of a new plan, a new cause. And this isn't just my idea. This is a collective dream that I'm giving voice to. I'm calling the action plan Retribalize. In my mind, it's only through uniting together in small, decentralized tribes that we can oppose the forces of modernity, but also create a new renaissance in culture. The far-out goal would be to have many civilizational projects allied together and perhaps working with small and up-and-coming nations like El Salvador, Argentina, Portugal. But before I start dreaming too big, let's bring this retribalized vision down to earth and into our backyards, because this actually has the power to affect enormous change. The compounds I envision start with a tight-knit team of ideologically aligned individuals who are there to build a business project, a family project, and a cultural project. And this is the thing, is we need high vision that's going to demand great responsibility of each individual to actually build that sense of camaraderie and shared citizenship that is the antidote to the modern world. Are you starting a cult? No. Okay, but it's going to be called a cult by haters and detractors because anything that's strange to the brokenness of the modern world, people are going to hate on in some way. Cult is our favorite boogeyman term right now, other than fascism. And no, this is not going to be either of those. By ideologically aligned, I simply mean that men and women who share a core set of values. And for me, that's courage, honor, responsibility, compassion. People that have a good heart, a good character, and a good intellect. That's who I want to be surrounded by. That's pretty simple. So no, this isn't a tribe of fanatics, nor is it just a bunch of transient fellows trying their hand at easy living in a farming utopia. I've made many videos about frontiers and masculinity, and it's one of the most essential things that most eco-villages don't understand, is that for healthy masculinity, you need a frontier, you need a greater project and responsibility that men are taking on together. This is how you actually build camaraderie. And the next thing you need is ownership, a permanent and lasting stake in the community. This is the only way to create real citizens who are fully engaged with the long-term vision and long-term prospects of the whole. And these are the two things that most men need or three things is you need men and women who share a set of values and share a vision. There needs to be a frontier that you guys are all expanding into or overcoming together. And you also need a sense of permanent stake as a citizen of the whole. When you have these three things in whatever fashion you want, you will have success. So this is why the Retribalize project starts with tight-knit teams of highly valuable and capable individuals. But there needs to be the possibility for scaling, which we talk about later. And all of this is in the manifesto linked below. This idea is just a seed right now, but there's many intelligent people watering that seed. And for this seed to sprout, it's going to need leaders, mentors, and supporters. All I'm saying is the Renaissance was started through patronage. The Medici family kicked off the Renaissance in Florence, Italy with about $500 million, and most revolutions have a wealthy backer. And one of the reasons I am so hopeful about the future is there are young leaders with extreme capacity. They are brilliant. And then there's also wealthy people who really want to see change, who don't buy into the two-party system, that see America disintegrating before their eyes, and they want to invest their resources into a legacy or into a better future. And if you can just connect wealthy backers with brilliant young leaders, boom. And right now, leaders are the most important because the thing is all the money already exists in the world. It's just waiting. And we just need people who are persuasive enough, who have the energy and insight to harness that flow of currency well. And there are so many of these types kicking ass in crypto and entrepreneurship and building scattered projects all over the world. And it's just time we rally a few of them to the same banner. If we could just get a few of these highly integral leaders to apply their genius to a retribalized project, magic would happen because they would be solving the number one problem affecting the world. This is a tremendous opportunity for any potential leaders out there, and I'm giving it away for free. So basically the idea in my mind is you have a leader who connects with a team of other leaders, right? And they get backing from an investor. And they start a compound, a retribalized, decentralized project that organically grows into its own culture and becomes a node within a greater network. And these nodes start to scale. And as time goes on, they scale bigger and bigger and bigger until we have literal civilizational projects. So for this to happen, we need the leaders, the supporters, the mentors, and the team members. But also, if you're a developer, I got a free idea for you. How about you start the Tribe app that is connecting leaders to team members to investors? And, just rope me in if you actually start doing this, but I think this would be super important, kind of like a dating app for the Retribalized project. And the interesting thing is, and the most challenging step in this whole process, I think, is leaders who have a solid enough plan to actually connect with an investor who wants to pour money into something that is a hope for the future, right? So this process of connection and collaboration is probably the most touchy point. And there's a lot of other uncertainties, and this is why you just need leaders with A teams around them, because problems will just mount one after another. And this is what being an entrepreneur is about. It's about, okay, I have a vision, I have a destination I want to arrive at. How do I start solving each problem, each invisible step along the way to get there? The most important and the most resilient thing you can build is a tribe of people who you love and trust and are willing to support you and your dreams. This is a step all of us can take right now. Community is essential regardless if you're destined to found a compound, and who knows, maybe one day your tribe joins a larger tribe. Just go find your people. Easier said than done, I know. But if you want to learn how, I do have a full course on building tribe and social capital in the Men's Academy. There's a link below to learn more about that. Ultimately, we are at a massive tipping point and great change nears. It's time for brave men to rise and commit themselves to this cause with the fullness of their capacity, intelligence, and resources. Again, this is not my dream. This is the dream of humanity, of life itself, and life needs her champions. I pray that great leaders rise to guide us into a better future, and I know